We live in a society that wants to go left. It's trying really hard to go left to find happiness, to find contentment, to find hope, to find peace, to find joy. And the world's way to go left, that it is convinced and it just tries over and over, the world's ways to get left is to work hard enough, to be successful enough, to have enough money, to get the job they want, to get into the college they want, to have the friends that they want, to have a boyfriend, to have a girlfriend, to have their life look the way they think it needs to look. And the world is convinced that if I just do this over and over and over, eventually it'll work out for me. And just like Lightning McQueen, his intentions were good. He wanted to be able to do something the right way. And yet over and over and over, he just goes about it in a way that will never do what he needs it to do. And in our world, in our society, in our lives, how often do you find yourself just continuing to try and think that something's going to work out for you if you're just, smarter, if you're just prettier, if you're just cooler, if you just are in the right place at the right time and you try over and over, day in and day out, you keep just and sliding off right off the road. This is the mentality of the world. Just do it. Do it on your own. Do it the best you can and hope for the best. And then Jesus shows up. And Jesus starts talking crazy talk. All right? Jesus, like Doc in this story, Jesus shows up and it seems that the way that he is saying, here's how you go left. Here's how you find that happiness, that joy, that contentment, that salvation that you want. That the world today, you could walk up to the world's most staunch atheist and be like, do you want to find happiness? Do you want to feel loved? Do you want true hope? Do you want true peace? And they're like, of course. The world wants this. Jesus knows the world wants this, and Jesus knows the world needs it. And so Jesus shows up, talking crazy, talking. It's like the things that he is saying to get that is like when Doc goes, turn right to go left. And ever since, the culture has gone, hold on. What did Jesus say? Turn right to go left. What? That's dumb. No. We've got this. And they continue over and over and over to try and find the happiness, try and find the joy, try and find the contentment. And not only are they trying to find it for themselves, they're trying to help you find it. They're trying to tell you, think about all the ways in our culture that culture is trying to tell you, here's how to be happy. Something that I've noticed ever since I was a little kid, and it's still true today. You know where society is saying how you have a great time at a party? Beer. Just have some Coors Light or some Michelob or some Miller. It's Miller time. All these things. This is one of those things where, like, hey, this is what you need. Society is trying to help you turn left. Jesus shows up and goes, here's how you turn left. And some of it is so backwards from society's thinking, from our thinking, from what we would say is like, well, no, I thought I knew how to do this. It's so backwards that we are tempted to dismiss it. We're tempted to go, yeah, no. Well, that might be what the Bible says, but that doesn't work at Upland High School. That might be what Jesus said, but that's not what my friends at Altaloma Junior High say. And we are tempted to go, crazy old man car. We're tempted to let it go and be like, no, that doesn't work. We're tempted to go, you know what? The Bible's outdated. The Bible's just this old book, out of touch with 2018. But what we're going to look at is a lot of what, later on in the story, Lightning McQueen learns and understands is that if you're willing to commit to it, not live it halfway, not try it every now and then. If you're willing to commit, and Doc even said it, you got to drive it in hard. You've got to really commit. You can't just kind of ease into it, and you got to break it loose. You guys, in our lives, in our culture, there's a whole lot of things we've got to break loose. We've got to break loose of the things that society says, this is what you need to be happy. This is what you need to be content. This is what you need to have peace. And let's look and see what Jesus is going, look, here it is. This is how you find what you're looking for. Meanwhile, in our society, we have bumper stickers that say things like, the one who dies with the most toys wins. Right? You've seen that? It's like, what? That is opposite of what Jesus is going to point out. So, my question to you here today, and as we go through this series, is, are you willing to think a little backwards? Are you willing to live out some things that in our society is a little backwards? When society says, hey, just do this. Hey, just go here. Just don't worry about this. Worry about this. Try real hard. Don't try here. And then, in the end, good luck. Or are you willing to look for truth in what Jesus says and go, all right, I'm going to put my faith in that, even though it seems backwards, and I'm going to expect the life that Jesus promises. So in Matthew chapter 5, it's a really common passage that is really well known. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. Why do you think it's called Sermon on the Mount? Because he gave a sermon on a mount, right? So Jesus, in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus goes up onto a mountainside and his disciples follow him. Now, disciples here is not just the 12 guys who traveled with him. Disciples were those who were sitting under his teaching. We are Jesus' disciples if we are authentically and seriously looking at the teachings of Jesus and going, I want that to guide and direct my life. So there was a bunch of disciples. There were a bunch of people, and they all follow him up onto this mountainside. And Jesus begins to teach them. Okay? And I'm going to read through this just so we have an overview, and then we're going to look at some of the specifics. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way. There's a couple words in this passage that occur over and over and over again, which is a problem for us, which could even be the reason that we go, crazy old man car. No, this isn't working. Because I tried it, okay? And I drove off and a cactus fell on my head. I tried it once, I'm done, right? There are a couple words in here that we are going to struggle with. Any ideas what they are? They will. They will. They will. They will. Do this. Live like this. Follow this teaching. You will. But I want it now. I want this to be some sort of magic thing that happens where as soon as I mourn, I'm immediately comforted. As soon as I am humble, I inherit everything, and I get everybody recognize me like, oh my gosh, you're so humble. And you're like, I know, humbly. And we struggle knowing like, I want this to happen now. I don't want this to they will. I want it to be they are. But they will. So the first thing that we've got to wrestle with is, are you willing to walk this out? Are you willing to trust God to be who he promises to be, even if it's not playing out right now in this moment. Even if right now life stinks. Even if right now a problem that you have doesn't seem to be being resolved, it doesn't seem to be getting better. Even if tomorrow is a worse day than yesterday was. Are you willing to go, but they will. I will. Or do you try it once, doesn't work out for you, and you go back to turning left? Back to just, oh, be successful, be popular, be pretty, do my own thing. They will is a struggle for us. And I want to encourage you and challenge you and walk with you in this of where you're going to put your faith. Because there are a whole lot of promises here that Jesus speaks to that may not be for right this moment. But they are still promises from God. So let's look at some of this backward thinking that Jesus starts talking about. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Some translations say poor in spirit, which is actually a better way to put this. It's easier for us to understand. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit, meaning they recognize, you will be blessed if you recognize your need for God. See, if we don't recognize our need for God, we're going to keep just turning left. If we don't recognize, oh wait, there is a way that God is calling me to live, something that God is calling me to, and I am in desperate need of that. You guys, I have lived so much of my life not desperate for God. As a pastor, not desperate for God. As a dad, as a husband, not desperate for God. I'm capable in these areas. I've been doing youth ministry for a long time. I kind of know how it goes. You know, I've had kids now for a while, and I still don't know how it goes. But I'm trying, and I can convince myself, like, I'm trying. I'm doing my best, and I can feel really good about that. And then, if it doesn't go right, well, then I can blame God. Well, it's God's fault for letting this happen. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for they realize their need for him. I'm just going to leave you with this. Do you realize your need for God? Or are you here going, really, I'm fine. I'm okay. I can handle this life on my own. It's not an easy question. It's not a light question. It's not something where it's like, oh yeah, no. I realize my need I need God. Jesus. Because that's the right answer. What does that look like in your life? How does that play out? God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Now, again, what do you think of when you think of somebody mourning? So yeah, they're death. So they're mourning the death, the loss of something. Okay, typically that's the way we use the term mourning, is we're mourning the loss of something. This, what Jesus is talking about, is so much deeper than that. Because guess what? Jesus is more concerned with our heart and where our heart is at than he is with where our emotions are at. It doesn't mean he doesn't care about our emotions. He doesn't mean he doesn't care when you're sad or care when there's loss. He does. That's why he promises to be with us. But what he's saying here, God blesses those who mourn, that they will be comforted, is this mourning over the loss of the perfection that we were designed for. You guys, we were designed for perfect peace. We were designed for perfect hope, for perfect love, for perfect joy. This is what we were designed for. That's why when we don't have it, it feels like a loss. Blessed are those who mourn, who recognize their need for God, who recognize that you can't earn it, you can't deserve it, that you're gonna screw up, that sin is going to continue to be something that tries to divide you, that sin is going to be something where you continue to suffer the consequences. My question to you, Jesus' question, and what Jesus is pointing out is going, does your sin, do the ways that you live against God, and let's not classify sin as like, oh, well, a little lie is no big deal. Oh, but murdering somebody is really bad. The ways that you live against God, does that cause you to mourn? Not live in guilt and shame, because with that, you're supposed to take that to God. Does living against God cause you to mourn? Does it hurt your heart? Now, thankfully, if you ignore it long enough, that feeling goes away. And then you don't have to feel bad anymore, and you can just kind of keep continuing trying to turn left. And that's the reality of life for us. So we screw up. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I'll never do that again. We screw up again. Nuts. Okay, I'm going to try harder. And all of a sudden, like after the second time, we're back to us. I'm going to try harder. I'm not going to do it. Third time, well, I mean, nobody's perfect. Fourth time, yeah, whatever. It's a habit. I can't help it. Fifth time, what? What? Don't judge me. Sound familiar? It does to me. Blessed are those who mourn, who look at the ways that they live against God and go, oh, this breaks my heart and I don't want to continue living in this. I mourn the loss of relationship. I mourn what God has for me that I've given up. And Jesus is saying, you'll be comforted. You will be comforted as you acknowledge your need for him and as you mourn and grieve over the ways that you're blowing it, over the ways that you are just doing your own thing and you're trying to turn left. And if that breaks your heart, Jesus is going, look, you're not supposed to live in guilt and sin and shame and hurt and regret. I'm going to comfort you. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the earth. This is crazy. Who typically, in our world, in our system of things, who typically are the big, upfront, successful, making billions of dollars kinds of people? Is it the humble people, or is it the proud, driven, I'm the greatest kind of people? Yeah. I mean, and I, honestly, I pray for President Trump because he needs it just like you and I need it. And President Trump is broken just like you are broken and just like I am broken. So as soon as I get tempted to be like, oh, what a tool. That guy, I can't believe it. I can't believe you. Man, that guy is so arrogant. And that guy, but, so he needs it just like I need it. But we see routinely from him of, we are creating, again, I can't do a Trump impression, but we are going to create the greatest school bell in the history of school bells. We are going to have the greatest concrete in the courtyard at Altaloma High School that has ever been poured in any high school. Exit 83 is the greatest. Okay, and there is this attitude of going, look, I can create all that I need. You guys, we do that. It may be on a smaller scale. It may be with things that are just very personal to you, but humble, be humble, and you will inherit. By humbling yourself, you'll actually get something. This is super backwards. And Jesus goes, yeah. It seems backwards because your culture is backwards, but the reality of it is this is a heart thing. And if you're not humble, you will never recognize your need for me. You will never mourn over your sin. As long as you're prideful, as long as you're not humble, you will never recognize your need for me. And you guys, this hits me. Where I hope I don't come across or I don't have this attitude like I'm the greatest thing ever or I've got it all together. And so I can pat myself on the back with that and be like, oh no, I'm humble. But am I humble enough to go, I am desperate for God. I am a mess without him. He is my only source of life. Am I that humble? God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. Do you hunger and thirst for justice? Another word for this is righteousness. Hunger and thirst for things to be right. Hunger and thirst for things to be perfect and the way they're supposed to be. Do you hunger and thirst for justice? Not just like, oh, well, If the right thing happens, okay, cool. But if not, but do you crave it? Do you desire for God's will to be done in your life? Do you desire God's will to be done in the lives of your friends and the people around you? Do you hunger and thirst for justice? It is only when we humble ourselves, it is only when we recognize our need for God that we will be hungering and thirsting for the right justice, for the right kinds of righteousness. And Jesus promises it'll be satisfied. But practically in your life, what does your heart do when you see the kid at school who's in the hallway at lunchtime, out in the quad, he's kind of just leaned up against the wall and he's sitting there all by himself? Now, you don't know his story. Maybe that's the way he preferred it, whatever. Or maybe you do know his story and you know that no one is inviting him to come have lunch with them. What is your heart for people when you're getting off the freeway and you see the homeless guy there and he's asking for money? Oh, probably a drug addict. He's probably just going to buy booze with it. Oh yeah, he probably just dropped out of school and abandoned his family. Or is there a love? Is there a compassion? Is there a care, a concern? Do you long for justice? Do you long for things to be the way they were designed to be? And Jesus says those who hunger and thirst for justice, they will be satisfied. What would that look like in your life? God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Mercy is not getting punished like you deserve. Okay? And, I exercise mercy all the time. With my kids, I will tickle them. And I will continue to tickle them. And for the most part, except for now Carter's getting pretty strong. But for the most part, I can tickle them for as long as I want to. I don't have to stop. I can tickle and tickle and tickle, and I used to always be like, I'm gonna tickle you till you pee. I'm gonna tickle you till, no, please don't tickle me till I pee. No. Right? And I could do this for as long as I want to, right? But my love for them, my desire for them not to suffer, my desire for them not to pee themselves on my couch causes me to stop. Okay? To not give maybe what they deserve. You deserve to be tickled. Punishment. You may deserve this, but I'm going to restrain myself. I'm going to show you grace. I'm going to give you mercy. And this isn't part of our society. This isn't something that we see, when there's a fight at school, okay? Soon as some harsh words start being said or people raise it, it's you guys experience this? Okay, people like this. Nobody, never in the history of a fight at school have people stood around and went, have mercy on him. Have mercy. No, mercy. He deserves mercy. Give him mercy. Never in the history of a school fight. Can I just dare you to try that at the next school fight? But, hey, no. Don't give him what he deserves. No, have mercy. Do it. I think we can start a revolution. I think we can change school fights forever. Anyway, told you I can't do a Trump impression. Nobody ever says that. What are they saying? Fight! Punch him! Okay, and I may have told this story before, but the most gruesome fight I have ever seen. 2 girls in the quad at Altaloma High School, and this girl, these 2 girls were facing off, and this one girl had these dangly earrings, and these dangly earrings were peace earrings. They had the peace symbol. And this girl walked up, and they're screaming at each other and talking to a crowd. And we're and I hadn't had the idea yet to yell, have mercy, have mercy. So I'm just oh my gosh, what's going to happen? This girl walks up to this other girl and just looks her in the eye and just goes, peace this. Whap. and ripped out both earrings. Like, the girl was like totally stunned. She wasn't ready. She was ready to get punched. She wasn't ready. She just said, piece this. And anyway, okay. So, mercy. Mercy is not something that our culture says, hey, exercise this. But guess what? Jesus goes, look, show mercy. You will be blessed if you show mercy. If you don't punish people the way they deserve. See, in a group of friends, if, one friend talks about another friend, gossips about another friend, typically the counsel is like, oh, man, you shouldn't talk to her anymore. She can't hang out with us at lunch anymore. And there's all this giving them what they deserve and punishing them the way. Have mercy. And it's not always easy, and it requires forgiveness, and it requires rebuilding trust. And I get all that, and Jesus got all of that too. God blesses those who show mercy. And guess what? When you do that, when you live that way, you'll be shown mercy. You guys, I don't know in what area of your life you need to show mercy. I don't know whether you are routinely, in a crowd at a fight, or in a fight, or with your brothers or sisters, or with your mom or your dad, or with friends. How do you need to show mercy? They do deserve it. They deserved all the punishment you could give them. They've been wrong, and so maybe trust needs to be rebuilt, and there needs to be forgiveness, but Jesus says, show mercy. And then, based on how you live that out, you will be shown mercy. James 2:13 says, judgment without mercy will be shown to anyone who has not been merciful. This is about our heart. This isn't just about an action. This isn't about the surface. This is Jesus being very concerned about our heart. Because if you can't show mercy to someone who has wronged you, that's a heart problem. That's not just a culture problem. It's not just, oh, well, she made me really angry. Oh, well, he's been a jerk for years. That's a heart problem if we are unable or unwilling to show mercy. So I don't know where you're at with that. And I'm not making light of it. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I am saying that Jesus said, hey, show mercy and you'll be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. Again, he's making it clear that he is way more interested in the condition of your heart than the condition of your emotions. And we are called to have pure hearts. And the only way we can do that is if we recognize how desperate we are for him. Are you with me? Is that this all ties together? It's almost like, Jesus planned this whole little message thing. It all ties together. We can only have a pure heart. Jesus made it possible for our hearts to be made pure. But we need to recognize our desperation for him. We need to humble ourselves. And having a pure heart means it's undivided. And I don't know where you're at, but I know that it can be really easy. Come in here and you go through the motions here. Okay, I don't typically hear like a bunch of swearing or people putting each other down and things like that here, but what do you like at school? Where's your heart at school? You're real kind to the people here. You'll put money in the box, the giving box and things like that. And then you go to school and you gossip and you're rude. And a heart that is divided can't be pure. So what are you pursuing and what are you walking through in life? God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. Other translations say, blessed are the peacemakers. Now get this, and this was something for me that I had to check. Blessed are the peacemakers. It doesn't say blessed are the peaceful. Because it can be really easy to sit back and be like, oh yeah, well I'm not fighting. I'm not the one saying all those bad things. I'm not the one being a bad friend. I'm not the one, and we'd say, hey, well I'm good enough. I'm good enough. I don't need God for anything. I don't need him to change my heart. I'm good enough. But here it says, blessed are the peacemakers. What are you doing? What are you doing to make peace in the relationships of the people around you? Maybe it doesn't even have anything to do with you. It's just a relationship going on around you. And it's two friends who are fighting, two friends who are gossiping. And rather than being able to like, well, they got to work out their stuff. It's none of my business. It's not. God's calling you to be a peacemaker, to step in and bring truth, to step in and bring peace. How are you at being a peacemaker? Not just being peaceful, not just being passive. Oh, well, I'll just stay out of it. It's not any of my business. It is your business. Jesus says, if you're my follower, if you're a child of God, it's your business. What is keeping you from stepping in and going, you know what? I'm going to make peace. I'm going to bring peace into this situation. What would that look like? And God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Does that sound like you're being blessed? People are mocking you and teasing you and telling you you're a loser. Does that sound blessed? This is some of that backward thinking. Be happy about it. Be very glad. A great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted the same way. Being punished for doing right, even in our society says that's lame. That shouldn't happen. You shouldn't be punished for doing the right thing. But the problem comes in what is being considered right. See, our society has a whole set of standards of what is right. Our society says if somebody hurts you, hurt them back. Our society says, hey, you do what you need to do to get yours. Our society says, hey, you look out for you first. And everybody else, they have to fend for themselves. All that Jesus is saying is so backwards to this. And he's going, look, you will be blessed. In fact, count it joy when people think that you're crazy for the way that you live. When you're willing to forgive people who don't deserve forgiveness. When you're willing to show mercy for somebody who doesn't deserve mercy. When you choose things that are opposite of what everyone else is choosing because God's saying, hey, that's turning left. You choose that, it's turning left. I have something different. And none of this is easy. None of this is the way many times that we naturally want to respond. But you guys, this is what Jesus says will bring life. Jesus says, if you'll drive it in hard and break it loose, I know it seems backwards, but you will end up being where you want to be with the hope and the joy and the salvation and the peace that the world keeps wanting and ends up being stuck in the cactus. So Lord God, I pray there is so much in this that is so backwards to us. And we want to say that, oh, well, we're trying. But God, this is where our desperation for you comes in. We don't want to just try. We don't want to just do our best. And so right now, I pray that you would do something supernatural in each person here. God, as they walk into their schools that have so many expectations and so many backward ways of thinking, but it's the popular way, and so it seems like the right way. God, I pray that you would help us to be able to know truth from lies, from life from death. And God, that you would speak to our hearts in those moments where we're tempted to not be merciful, when we're tempted not to be peacemakers, when we're tempted not to think of the things the way that you would think of them, but the way everybody else is. And God, that you would remind us that you love us and that we will be blessed. So I pray that you would do that in our hearts and in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.